Welcome to Capital Conquest, the podcast, where we take an in-depth look at the major influencers that have made and continue to make Capital Conquest the extraordinary martial arts event that it is. Who better to talk to in our first interview than the man who started it all, Hanshi Therien. In this episode, we talk about how and why Hanshi created Capital Conquest 30 years ago, and we discuss the improvements and changes that he is making so that this year's event will be one you won't want to miss. Capital Conquest is a chance to connect and reconnect with others who have a like-minded passion for martial arts. In this podcast, we will do our best to connect you with those people, and today we connect with Hanshi Therien. Okay, so here's the first Capital Conquest podcast episode. Of course, we have the man, Hanshi Therien. How are you, sir?
I am very, very good, Sensei Scott, and anxious for Capital Conquest 2022.
This is 30 years?
We're celebrating the 30th Capital Conquest, and as you know, the last 3 years we've been shut down. The last one was November 2019. Because of COVID, we got shut down like everybody else, and now we are back. And we're back to kickstart the martial arts industry, schools, training, teaching from all over the world. Boy, oh boy, this is going to be an exceptional year.
Fantastic. I get excited just talking to you about it. So I'm really looking forward to this. 30 years ago, what made you start Capital Conquest?
I was in Europe a lot in the 70s and 80s, training and then starting to teach. And I had met Richard Morris, Soki Richard Morris, who was one of my teachers. I had two of them, and he was one of the main ones I had for many, many years. And he said that in Europe, they have training camps. And he said, you should do training camp in Canada. So we did one, and it was such a success. And I fumbled through doing it, and it was still great. And the benefits that everybody got, the teachers, the performers, and definitely the participants raved about it. So then they said, you got to do it again. And I got hooked, because when you start to be a promoter, it's like starting to compete in tournaments. You win one, you want to do it again. You win another one, you keep going. Then you raise the bar. And I met so many nice people and so many great instructors and participants from all around the world. It's just that I think I was addicted to doing it, but always for the right reason, which is to take the martial arts to a new level, to introduce some of the great teachers, and that share what we all know and make a lot of friends with the same goals in life for martial arts.
What was the size of the first year? Do you remember back then? Was it a very small camp?
I'm going to guess on the size at the time, but I would say somewhere around 300 people maybe, which was a very big event back then. And it was the first of its kind. I did it in Ottawa, and in Ottawa those days we had a lot of fantastic karate tournaments. And we had too many of them, as far as I'm concerned. So some trample over the other ones. And this weekend is a tournament. That weekend's another tournament. So I think that if you competed, that was good. But if you didn't compete, you needed somebody else. So around 250, 300 people for sure came to the first event.
Did you see that it was going to be as big as it is?
No, never. I looked at the instructors and I saw the quality of some of those instructors. Some of those instructors, we started to grow with them, and we said, we have to introduce these people to the world. I'm going to mention just a few names. Alain Sailly was not known in those days, but he came here, he did what he does best, and everybody fell in love, and they saw what he did, they said, we want more of that. I know that my schools said that, and many other schools. Then we brought in my friend Cesar Borkowski, who introduced Kobudo, really, which was the bow and everything else. And teaching bow to jiu-jitsu people, he had his work cut out for him. And he did. And the results were good. And people started to know who Cesar Borkowski was, who Alain Sailly was. And then in the mix, we had the Iceman, Jean-Yves Theriot, we had Richard Morris, we had so many great teachers. Then I started to look around, and when I saw somebody that has something to contribute, something good that we could all share, because as you know, for me, it's martial arts for everybody, and we want everybody to come, and it doesn't matter what you teach, as long as it's good and as long as your approach is great. You know, if your personality, you could be the best in the world, but if you've got an arrogant personality, you won't last long with John Therien and World Kobudo and Capital Conquests.
So how do you find them? Is it just basically from them training at the event, or do you go to schools?
Well, I travel a lot, and Alain Sailly travels a lot, and so does a few of the other instructors. And if somebody tells me, let's say I go somewhere and I'm teaching at a camp in Germany, and I see somebody there that has very good talent as a teacher, his martial arts is good, and that would make Capital Conquest and the Canadians and everybody that comes to this event better, I will approach them and bring them to Capital Conquest. This week alone, I had two very good instructors. One is from Warsaw, Poland, with knife, but a different approach for knife. Like, this guy is phenomenal, and we're going to bring him in. We're still looking at the dates for him to come in. And if he's not here for Capital Conquest, he'll be in Europe 3 weeks after at Kobudo Festival on November 18, 19, and 20. And this other guy from the United States who's in judo and jiu-jitsu and BJJ, very good news with some of those people. So I'm not going to tell you yet everybody else that's coming, but we have several new teachers. So I get them by referral, and I scout them, if that's the right word. It's like a hockey player in Canada. I got scouts out there. Give you an example. Johan Skalberg from Sweden. Johan was a jiu-jitsu black belt. He was good. Then he got better. Then he started to do Kali and knife, and Sikaran that he put together started to grow, and he became very good. And I saw him a couple of times. Then Alain says, remember Johan? I said, yes, he's ready. Ready? Okay. So we bring him in. And of course, he's been a favorite instructor at Capital Conquest for many years now because he contributes a lot and he's a nice guy.
You mentioned Poland, Germany, United States. How many countries do you think actually go to a Capital Conquest event on average?
I'm not going to count this year because we don't know. The travel this year is a pain in the butt, all over the world. But up until 2019, in 2019, we had 17 different countries there at Capital Conquest. But over the years, we've had over 40 countries that participated as participants or as teachers or as performers at the Kobudo Mania show. 40 plus countries, it's a lot. And also with quality.
You need a big space, obviously, to do an event. How many instructors do you have?
Normally, I have between 60 and 70 instructors. We have, you talk about space. Let me answer that first. At the Palais des Congrès in Gatineau, just outside of Ottawa, the main dojo is 27,000 square feet. Now, that's 2,700 square meters. If we count for Europe, you'll understand how big that is. Plus, we have another 7,000 square foot room, which is 700 square meters, plus all the hallways and a few small halls. In there, we have 60 to 70 instructors, and we break this down to maybe 15, depending on how many participants we have. It'll be somewhere between 15, 20 to maybe 30 or 32 different training areas. So you've got some specialty classes that might have 5, 6 people. You have another mat that might have 50 people, but it's generated, so you need a lot of space. And in the instructors that we have, you have to understand that we have some instructors that will teach 1 class. You have some that will teach 4 classes, maybe 5. So it gives a chance for some instructors to showcase what they have, showcase themselves, and brand what they do and make a name for themselves around the world. It's a perfect opportunity. It's like, we give you a world and international stage. Now it's up to you. And first they have to be good to get there, and then we grow from there.
How do you format it then? So let's say Hanshi's teaching, and so there's going to be a lot of people on his mat, but then there's somebody maybe a little lesser known. They may only get 10, 12, something like that. So how do you balance it out?
It's very difficult just to do the lineup and the schedule of instructors for the weekend, right? There's 4 classes Saturday, 4 classes Sunday. It takes me about 2 to 3 weeks to do it. For example, I'll take 2019 Capital Conquest class schedules, and I've got all the names there, and I'm going to scratch out those that are not teaching this year, and I'm going to try to add the new ones in. But I've got to try, and if I take the top 4 or 5 instructors and I put them on at the same time, I have a problem because you're going to have 4 mats loaded and the other mats not enough for the people. And so you've got to mix it. And you have to understand, like, I also tell the instructors, like you mentioned Alain Sailly, he is the number 1 favorite at these camps. I put Alain Sailly on mat number 5. And I will tell everybody there's room for 40 people. Of course, there might be 45, 46, but I say 40 people. And I tell Alain, if somebody shows up after, you say, look, I'm also teaching the next class, come for the next class. Also, what you have to do is balance things out. If you do BJJ, you need mats. You do judo, you need mats. You do aikido, you need mats. The jiu-jitsu that we teach is a stand-up jiu-jitsu. We don't really need mats, but for a lot of techniques, we do need mats. So I have to balance that out. When you train Kobudo, you don't necessarily need mats. So it's quite a lot of juggling to do, you know.
As a school owner, I love it when my students go, they get all fired up for classes afterwards. They're just high energy. I look forward to that. I look forward to seeing friends that I haven't seen in such a long time. What are the things that you look forward to as the organizer, the promoter? What gives you that drive?
The drive for me is the reunion of the family together, my martial arts family. If I give you the names of all my 100 top friends or people I love in the world, 95 of them are martial artists, right? 5% are family related or into some other stuff that I do in my life, my personal life. So I look at the reunion just like you to see these people back. I love the energy that we create, the friendship. You see people coming in, and instead of having an attitude that we're going to be badass and kick your butt and stuff like that, they walk in with a smile. They haven't seen each other. That part to me is worth the year that I put into it to do it. And remember that Capital Conquest is not one event. There's 6 major events during the weekend. Kickboxing on Friday night. This year, on Saturday morning, it's competition, karate comité, karate kata, and chambara, which is something very new for Capital Conquest. Then we have 4 hours of training. Then we have the Canadian Black Belt Hall of Fame induction ceremony and dinner, which is a first-class event with some of the best martial artists the country has produced. And we have a few surprises for that too. Then we have the Kobudo Mania show and then back training on Sunday morning. For me, it's a non-stop event. When you come Friday night, when everything is over and people go back to the hotel, and we have 3 hotels full of people, people will gather and have a cup of tea at the bar, you know, together and chat. And I'm back in my room and I'm working till 3, 4, 5 in the morning to readjust everything. Sometimes, and this happens every year, for good reason. An instructor comes up and says, I have to leave Sunday. Instead of leaving at 2, I got to leave at noon. So I got to reschedule that class time. I have to plan for those 6 events are all major events and everything has to be planned. I don't depend on anybody. I have to do it myself with a small group of people that we call the Therien team. You know, my wife, Therien, is one of them. Wanda, that everybody knows. You want anything, you go see Wanda. She's selling all the souvenirs and shirts and whatnot. And you say, well, can I leave this with someone? See Wanda. And then there's the registration. It's big. But to put it all together and get the people together is my number one thing. And when I lose that, and if I have some people that I consider friends, they're not happy with me or they're not happy with Capital Conquest, it hurts me. It really, really hurts me because I do it for them as much as for me, and I move forward. But if there was some people would come up to me and some of my good friends say, we're not coming anymore, I'll quit because I will miss those people. I will miss that family. In a family, life is good. And I come from a family of 6 siblings. And sometimes, you know, one of your siblings has an off day and he's got a good day. So martial arts, when we get to Capital Conquest, everybody has a good day. And then you get some kids coming up and they're 20 years old. They're 6'2", they weigh 200 pounds, and they're black belt second dan. And they said, Hanshi, you remember me? I took a photo with you. He shows me the photo. The kid was 6 years old, you know. I remember the photo, but I don't remember you. And then I hear from a lot of people the benefit that they had when they say, you know, this type of training at Capital Conquest has made my martial arts so better. Exactly what you said for your schools. for your students. And then others say it has helped me to challenge myself in life, in my everyday job or at university or whatever. I meet some of them now, they're about 30 years old and they're doctors. They got a PhD in medicine, a PhD in electronics. It's good. It's a love-hate event. I love the event. I love the people. I hate doing all the work now.
The thing that's going to throw me off more than anything else, you said that somebody walked up to you and you don't remember them. And I got to be honest with you, most of the time I talk to somebody and anybody that talks about you, and number one thing they go, he remembers so much. He remembers a small conversation I had in the elevator or something like that. So I got to ask, now have you here now? What's your secret? How do you remember everybody's name? And
my secret is simple. I pay attention to everybody because everybody's important to me. Like if I saw you when you were 6 years old, and that's 15 years ago, and you're 20, and I didn't see you in between, of course, your body is grown and I won't see you. But for anybody that's, say, an adult mostly, or I haven't seen you in 5 years, 10 years, or 1 year, you have no idea what it means to me. If I'm sitting at a table with all the top people in the world, and believe me, with the celebrities and the pioneers and the world champions that we have at Capital Conquests, I love those guys. I really do. They're my brothers, and they're part of my family, brothers and sisters. But the white belt that's starting is very important to me. And I take the time to listen. And if I take the time, what I mean by the time, if I take 30 seconds to a minute and speak to that person, ask them their first name, where they're from. I look at the patch on their gi. There's a good chance I will remember that person. It's a gift or it's a curse. It depends how you look at it.
I think, honestly, for Capital Conquest, it's a gift. And it's just such a personal approach that you add to it. And I don't think it would be, how many people have tried to do an event like this and they don't do the same as what you can accomplish with this? And I think it's your personal approach. I think it's that you care. And I cannot wait. After 2 long years, I'm really looking forward to this year.
It's going to be a good year, Scott. When you see everything that's happening, we have a few new formats this year too. I'll give you an example. This year at Capital Conquests, we will have tens of thousands of participants, tens of thousands, not all at the Palais des Congrès in home. We're going to have 2 main mats. On mat number 1, I have Alain Serrier. Mat number 2, Cesar Burkowski. We are going to stream those classes to many schools that are with World Kobudo across Europe. Because the travel for them to come in this year, I don't know how easy it is for them or how difficult it is, but the schools are open and all the schools are doing well. And Capital Conquests will put the final coat on that, say, we are back. That's my goal this year. We're back where we belong, So when we stream that in the dojos, they will have their students training. They put it on the giant screen and they have a choice. Class number 1, I want to train with Cesar Burkowski, or I want to train with Alain Serrier. Class number 2, we will have 2 of the other top instructors, maybe Jean-Yves Theriot, maybe Pascal Coulon. And then they say, well, I want to train with Jean-Yves. They click on that and they train. We're going to do 4 hours like that on Saturday, 4 hours on Sunday. And the people in Europe that we have approached right now are so excited with that, so excited because to them, you have to remember, I'm a big rock and roll fan, and if the Rolling Stones are playing in Ottawa and I don't go, I lose. So that's the event, but I can't go see the Rolling Stones in England. It's too far, too costly, the travel. But I've heard of the Rolling Stones. Well, Capital Conquest is one of the major martial arts events in the world. It is well-branded. People want to say, I've never been, I can't afford to go, but now I can be there at least because it's streamed over. So we're going to have a lot of people. That is one of the changes, and there's several more.
I think a big change was that you mentioned the Rolling Stones instead of the Beatles.
Yes, true, but I can't get all the Beatles. There's only 2 left,
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so you approached me about doing this podcast and inviting people to talk about Capital Conquest. Where do you want to see this going? What would make people tune in for future episodes?
Well, what I want to do is anywhere between 6 and 12 episodes of about 15, 20 minutes. I want to introduce some of the best instructors that come to Capital Conquest, some that have experience and they can talk about their experience at Capital Conquest. They might be known for their martial arts. We mentioned some people that are maybe very good in BJJ. Well, they know that the guy is very good. But why is Capital Conquest that different? They want to talk about it. And also because there's going to be so many new schools all over Europe and South America that's going to tune in on those events that's going to be streamed. We get to showcase some of our great instructors. And the people over there will come to see what we have this year. That's going to be a game changer. And that's one of the only good things that the pandemic gave us is that people are on Zoom and they've learned to train like that. Zoom, we're all zoomed out. We don't want Zoom, but for Capital Conquest, we can at least introduce it.
Well, the fact that you asked me to do this, it was a no-brainer. I had to say yes, just so I can meet those people. But the fact that I can spend more time with you, I'm totally in. So I'm really excited about other episodes. And thank you very much for inviting me to do this. And thank you for your time today.
Stay tuned and meet all the pioneers and champions and everything coming soon. See you at Capital Conquest.
Capital Conquest will be happening November 4th, 5th, and 6th, 2022. For more information, you can go to the World Kobudo website at worldkobudo.org/Capital Conquest or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Capital Conquest WKF. This has been a Campsall Broadcasting production. We'll see you at Capital Conquest.